Hey. Hey, welcome to the Be Curious podcast. I think this is our independent project that we're attempting for the first time. So I'm your host, Joanne.
And I am Alvin.
So, so how are you feeling, Alvin?
Feeling today?
Yeah,
Feeling great, man.
I'm kind of excited but also nervous because
Same.
we do not know what's gonna happen. This is really just like testing out, our imagination, I guess. Our imagination coming to reality. But I think that this is a good opportunity for us to, express and do what we want in terms of helping, I would say, our community, or I guess in general, just be able to express what are we passionate about or what we want to talk about.
Yes.
So hopefully we'll have more of these episodes upcoming. So shall we talk about first topic today, Alvin? Like, let's get started to introduce the first topic.
Yes.
All right.
Our first topic is
Purity culture. I mean, specifically, our title is purity culture toxic? And actually, I'm the one that chose this topic because of the widespread encouragement of exploring your sexuality, aka the free sex movement. We are seeing a lot of people who grew up in being very religious becoming presently very anti-religious, and being very promiscuous, citing purity culture as something very traumatizing. We are seeing articles, social media accounts, and people who even used to be key figures in religion, such as nuns, missionaries, ending up in the porn industry, and worst of all, the normalization of premarital sex and the sex industry. So, with that said, we actually have made a lot of preparations for today's episodes. We will be doing a little bit of reactions, viewing at some statistics, viewing at some religious studies to see if this is really the case. Now, let me just get started on some background information. So just give me the honors to do that. So first of all, before we talk about purity culture, I will talk about the sexual revolution, because before purity culture, we had the sexual revolution. So basically, what is the sexual revolution? It is something that happened in the 1960s and 70s in northern countries, such as in Europe and as well as the USA. That was this happened because of a significant shift in attitudes towards sexuality due to multiple factors such as cultural, social, political, and scientific changes. So basically, what happened in the sexual revolution is that because of this, sex is no longer confined to marriage and reproduction. So because back then, because we know very well that traditionally sex is something that is only within the boundaries of marriage. Sex is something that naturally leads to reproduction. But then because of the sexual revolution, they changed the perspective. They changed the perspective that sex is not just within marriage or for children. It is about giving yourself pleasure, and actually the key groups that really push forward this agenda were the feminist and homosexual movements, or LGBT community. They really played a huge role in changing this culture. So what happened was that because of this, change in perspective, it led to the decriminalization of abortion, the recognition of sexual pleasure as something natural. So hence, if you want to restrain it to marriage, it's like repressing yourself. It is repressing your needs, which they claim it's not good for you. And then so they want to normalize non-reproductive sexual activities. And then a lot of milestones during the sexual revolution was the removal of homosexuality as a mental disorder, because before, I just need to check my resources, that before 1973, homosexuality was considered to be a mental disorder in the psychiatric board, but then after 1973, homosexuality was removed as a mental disorder. And then that also the loosening of pornography censorship was also occur. It did occur because of the sexual revolution. So it was very obviously it's a very liberal change, free from the traditional constraints, as they say, and this also led to same-sex union being recognized. It was like a step-by-step process, but basically the 1960s really made a lot of changes. And now we go back to, just one more thing to add is that another thing that really also pushed forward the sexual revolution was also when the contraceptive pill first came to the market, the birth control pill where you take the pill and it prevents you from getting pregnant. So this was,
thank you for explaining.
yeah. So yeah, and in fact, a decrease in monogamy as well. Like there's a lot of effects. So this is just me simplifying as much as I can because the article I have here is very long. So now we go back to purity culture. So to be honest,
that was the background.
That was the background of sexual revolution. It's a long thing. You can actually do a lot of research on that. So now we talk about purity culture. Actually, before, Alvin, let me just ask you first. Before this episode, when I said purity culture, what did you think?
My own viewpoint, I think, is like not too close with the person, like opposite sex, or not so close, but it's like not going to be with the person one to one, and also not having boyfriend girlfriend.
Okay.
And having sex after marriage.
Yeah. Okay. So that's your. Yeah. Then for me, before I started doing my research, I thought purity culture. For me, I thought purity culture was just a representation of the religious perspective of purity, not just Christianity, but like just the general teachings of spirituality and religion. That purity purity is about maintaining your body as a temple for God. It is about it's about preserving, not harming your body, such as engaging in sexual immorality. Not just sexual immorality, it's also about not engaging in gluttony, means overeating. It is not harming your body, like self-harm and stuff. This was my interpretation of purity culture. But then upon doing my research, because I've been seeing a lot of articles about how toxic it is, so I wanted to see why exactly it's toxic. So then I learned a few interesting. So turns out the purity culture we're talking about, it's a specific aspect. So this by specific I mean is that this purity culture is actually a movement that started in the 1990s. So just to preface that purity has always existed. After all, Christianity is like 2,000 years ago. But what I mean about the purity culture is that it's actually a movement that started in the 1990s by the evangelical movement to promote a biblical view of sexual purity, emphasizing abstinence before marriage. Because this was due to the fact that in the 1990s, teenage pregnancy rates, AIDS, and premarital sexual activities was very high at that time. So at that time, actually, the Christian community was they just wanted to change the culture, so they came up with the purity culture movement. It was a little bit of an attempt. So actually, through this purity culture movement, they did various events such as purity pledge, purity rings, and purity balls. These were the three main factors to it, which is actually quite interesting. I have to admit, like, this is in a way new to me. And also actually a huge significant aspect is the True Love Waits campaign, which encourages young people to pledge abstinence until marriage. And in fact, there was actually one book, I don't know if you have heard of this book, but this book is called I Kiss Dating Goodbye. It is a very popular book. I read
when was it made?
Many years ago, actually. Very, I think it was like in 1997 this book was published.
1997?
I think so. But I remember reading this book, like half of this book, and actually the words that's in that book is actually very similar to our church, our church teachings. But yeah, I this is just from my vague memory. But basically, so just to explain, that the purity culture, so we have purity pledges such as I pledge to commit to God. So we do have the purity rings. I kind of wish that our church here had the purity rings, but I do know that in other countries our church does have the purity rings. But nevertheless, I liked it. Then there's the purity ball. So Alvin,
purity ball?
Do you know what's that?
No. What's purity ball?
So anyways, the purity balls, actually I had to Google this because I was like, what is that? So basically the purity balls is actually, to be more specific, father-daughter's ball, where the father would take their teenage daughters to like a ball, objective of this ball is to for the father to pledge that they will protect their daughters and guide them to keeping themselves pure, and then the daughters will also pledge to keep that promise to their fathers. Which and then I looked at the photos, and it's honestly.
Do you have any photos?
Well, I will show you some. I can show you some photos just really quickly, and then we can maybe even input them on the screen. And let me tell you, it's honestly it's honestly kind of strange because
Oh my gosh.
why does it look like a wedding?
Yeah,
Why does it look,
li-
you know,
literally.
it kind of looks like a wedding ceremony, and honestly, it I don't know. So I'm gonna be honest.
The taking photo position also is, it looks like a wedding.
Exactly. So I'm gonna be honest. If my father brought me to a purity ball, I would feel very awkward. I'm gonna be honest. And another thing is that why is there no mother son ball? Like why is there no mothers promising to teach their sons to look at a woman with respect, to look at girls with respect, to why is there the sons not promising to treat women with respect, to look at a woman with pure eyes instead of looking at a woman with lust? So anyway, also clearly this purity culture is very centered. They put more emphasis on the woman, that the woman has more responsibilities. This is what I'm seeing. So before we move on to the reaction, so clearly the purity culture, the reason why there's a lot of criticism, there's two forms of criticism which we will both look at today. The first criticism comes from a biblical perspective, and the second one comes from a secular perspective. So the biblical perspective is that the purity culture seems to be using a lot of shame. It seems to be just focusing on the external, on the body. There is no focus on internal. Like, yes, you have to keep pure, but while keeping pure, you should be building your internal. You should be building the internal aspects, such as your relationship with God. But the purity culture is overly focusing on the fact whether or not you are engaging in sex, whether or not you are watching porn. And then the circular perspective is that they just feel that this purity culture is so outdated. Nobody's keeping themselves from marriage. Nobody is getting married. So why do we have to be so strict? Whether or not our sexual activities is within or outside marriage. So these are the two criticisms that has been noted a lot. So now, I think that's enough of an education system. Let's move on to the reactions part.
But wow, man.
Yeah.
Also, I didn't know about the purity board.
Yeah, I know. But also just for context, they mentioned in the 1990s the birth rate was very high. I looked up the birth rates for US teenagers from 1991 to 2022. It is very true that the highest was in 1991. So now let's move on to the reactions part.
Wait. Refresh a bit. I need some refresh. Sexual revolution was in 1960s.
That was like the start of a domino effect.
Then the purity culture starts from
1990s.
And this is the.
Then this statistics is the birth rate among US teenagers aged 15 to 19 years old from 1991 to 2022.
So it's a decrease.
So yes, the birth rate has been decreasing since 1990. Yeah, you can. Yeah. But of course, abortion is also getting more common. So we do not know exactly. But this is just the birth rate. As of now, I'm seeing that in the 1990s, a lot of teenagers were having kids very young. So now let's move on to the reactions part. I think we have two YouTube videos that we have prepared. I think let's just start with first one is actually a TED talk given by this person who talks about her surviving purity culture, and it's a very interesting time.
In my early 20s, I spent more nights than I actually really want to be admitting to you all right now, staring at a pregnancy test. Deep down, I knew the results would be negative, since I was a virgin. But seeing those results was the only way that I could stop the nightmares that my sexual sins were going to be found out and punished, even if I wasn't having sex itself. I had left my conservative Christian community, so why was its shame and judgment still in my body? I remember feeling really scared and alone. And eventually, I called up the women that I grew up with in my church, and I told them what I was experiencing, and my jaw dropped when they said that they were experiencing some of the exact same things. So I went back to my Midwestern hometown. I dug up my old church directory, and I spent a year interviewing every woman I could find who grew up with me in my church. And over and again, I heard stories of sexual shame and anxiety and fear that echoed my own.
Okay, first things first. So from the introduction, she is expressing how she has a very strange obsession with pregnancy tests, even though she knew that she wasn't going to be pregnant. And then she said that, you know, she had this strange fear that her sexual sins was going to be discovered. I mean, I do not know what does she mean by sexual sins. If she wasn't having sex, probably you know, maybe pornography or maybe like non-penetrative sex. But nevertheless, then she talks
Wait,
about
non-penetrative sex. What's that?
non-penetrative sex means basically the sexual organs do not meet,
I see.
but they but they find other ways to engage in pleasure activities. So and then she said that she met multiple people who from her church that experiencing the same effect. So clearly, I do not want to invalidate anyone who has certain difficulties, who has certain mental struggles, even if it stems from religious teachings. But I think we need to understand what exactly makes you feel like that, what was said to make you feel like that, and we need to see if something went wrong in teaching. I think this is a case of the teaching not being conveyed correctly if you are having this kind of intense shame or fear.
With its message that people, and in particular women and girls, could be defined as either pure or impure based on our sexuality.
What do you think? Do you think that I know she says girls, but honestly, do you think girls and boys can be identified as pure or impure based on our sexual status? Like, means essentially, like, I mean, yes, they did commit a very big sexual sin. That is a fact. But does it? But here's the thing, you know, there's so many factors that come into it.
I feel there's two types of purity. One is the internal side and one is the external side. So by committing, that one is more towards external side, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's a linking or not. The external lead to internal effect on the person heart also, or mentality or something like that. Or it could be the opposite, you know, the mentality affects the external side.
I mean, also like, okay, let's say not sex. Let's say this person has a struggle with pornography. You know, are they pure or impure? It kind of depends, right? I mean, yes, it's a fact that they're engaging in sexual immorality, but you know, we have so many religious people who opened up about their struggles. You know, are they now impure? I mean, they are a pastor, but are they impure because they have a record of doing this in their past? You know, so I think it also depends on the mentality. Like, if you actively know you're doing something wrong, if you're actively trying to change it, I think you're on the path of I think you're on the path of putting yourself on the right path to God, or I say putting yourself to the right path to regain purity. And I guess if you are actively engaging in a lifestyle that is clearly impure, a sexual immorality, then yes, I think we can classify someone as impure. But I think what she is saying is that what she went through is that it is very black and white. It means if you did this, you are no longer pure and nothing can bring you back. I think it's a very black and white perspective.
But while adolescents around the world received a dose of purity culture's toxic teachings, those of us who were raised in evangelical churches, we swallowed whole bottles of the stuff. As girls and women in particular, we learned that even our sexual thoughts or our sexual feelings could decrease our purity, which meant our worth. And so could the sexual thoughts and feelings that men had about us, as we were assumed to have inspired them. My friend Nia told me about a time in 7th grade when her girls group leader brought a pan of freshly baked brownies to her Bible study. "Who wants a brownie?" the leader asked. All the girls raised their hand. "I can't wait to give one to you," she said. "I just need to do one thing first." The leader then invited Nia and the other girls to follow her outside, where she dragged a knife through a pile of dog poop. Hang on. She brought the knife inside and proceeded to cut the brownies with the knife. "Who wants a brownie?" No one raised their hand. "Right," she said. You may think that masturbation or making out with your boyfriend is no big deal. But all it takes is a hint of dog poop to make these brownies impure, just like all it takes is a hint of sexual immorality to make yourself impure. And once you're impure, no one will want you.
Okay, I need to stop here. I need to stop here and say this.
No, I want to.
First things first, not the brownies. What did the brownies do to you? What did the brownies do to the church leader like that? That like as someone who loves brownie, that is a sin to me.
Say like brownie. I like brownie.
Yeah, same exactly. And second thing is that you know, as for me, obviously we've never experienced that. This is very bizarre to us, but I just want to say that if I attended any workshop, any lecture, and or any talk surrounding purity, and my church leader or the lecturer who was giving the lecture regarding purity did this thing, I would immediately leave the hall. I would immediately leave. I would do that. Like honestly, I would do that because it is very inappropriate to do that, and also honestly, what the church leader mentioned, you may think, oh, masturbation or making out with your boyfriend is not a big deal, but it just takes a hint to make yourself impure and nobody will want you. I think there is truth and false to it. It is true that doing those things is not right. It's not right.
Yeah.
But it does not taint you. Even when it comes to premarital sex, is that yes, it is true that premarital sex is the worst thing you can do in terms of purity. Like the premarital sex is kind of like the worst. You know, after all, the premarital sex is classified as the fall. But before the fall. So we have the fall and before the fall. So even let's say before the fall, so we don't include premarital sex first, and you engaged in sexual immorality such as porn or even non-penetrative sex, which is not classified as fall. Yes, it is a fact that you are doing something wrong, you are committing a sin, and I guess at that moment you are tainted at that moment. But if you come to regret it, if you come to sincerely repent and you come to change your ways, you are cleansing yourself, you are cleansing yourself. And then now let's talk about premarital sex, aka committing the fall. If you actually commit the fall, will be when you commit the fall, it means you lose your virgin, and no matter what, no matter how much you regret it, it is a fact that your first experience will always be your first experience. There's no such thing as getting your virginity back. There is no such thing. So I understand that. And even after you go through the forgiveness ceremony, even after you go through the repentance of committing premarital sex, it is a fact that no matter how much you repent, no matter how much your church forgives you or whatever, that there is that record that when you get married, your wife is not longer your first partner. Yes, but so I guess for premarital sex there is a little bit more of a more permanent consequence to it. But even for church members or religious people who committed premarital sex, they are still able to come back to God. They are still able to repent. There's no such thing as, oh, you committed premarital sex, leave our church, don't ever come back. There's no such thing.
Yeah.
So I think that this behavior of cutting a brownie with dog shit and saying that it just takes a little bit to make yourself impure and no one will ever want you, I think that this is very wrong.
I think, to be honest though, like I think everyone is impure in some ways,
Exactly.
Like to a certain degree, I feel there's like maybe there's a purity, impure and pure. There's like a not a graph, but like you there's some point where it's like to reach a line where it's like not very pure. It's like which is like the premarital sex, right?
Yeah.
But of course you can cleanse yourself and redeem the thing, but then the effects is already ingrained to your mind, your bone and your flesh also. So yeah.
So yeah, I think you're very right about that. And so basically I have to say that what that church leader did with the brownie thing, it's very inappropriate. That's all I can say.
But the more that I listened, the more I started to understand that this is just the beginning of the story. Sexual dysfunction is the presenting symptom, but it reveals a deeper problem. Purity culture conditioned girls and women to suppress our feelings, our intuitions, and our bodies, to distrust our own thoughts, and to hand over our choices in every area of our lives, not only our sexuality. For example, we were taught to stop a thought if it conflicted with that of a leader, or to shut down feelings that we weren't supposed to be having, like anger, or even too much happiness, which we learned could be a sign of selfishness. This isn't just heartbreaking, it's actually really dangerous. Our bodies, our intuitions, and our feelings, they protect us. And when we suppress them, we often have no way to sense danger, making us vulnerable to sexual assault, intimate partner violence, and other threats. Suppressing yourself can even kill you. Literally. It's taken me years to be able to value and to listen to and to trust myself enough to be able to override others' expectations. And some days I'm still better at it than others. But against the odds, I've been able to create a life of my own making. 4 years after publishing a book on purity culture, I now run my own not-for-profit and work one-on-one with purity culture survivors to reclaim our lives. I met Lily, an artist who was raised by a conservative Christian family during the pandemic. Like a lot of folks, she spent most of 2020 alone, which for her meant reading lots of books, like Pleasure Activism and Letters from the War Zone. Every time the author said something that Lily had been raised to disagree with, she instinctively felt like she was supposed to slam the book shut. But she decided that she was going to hear them out, and was surprised to find that she actually agreed with a lot of what they had to say. Then Lily started to ask herself a question. If I can hear them out, why can't I hear myself out? She started to make a concerted effort to stop shutting down the thoughts, feelings, and desires that she had learned were wrong, and to actually ask herself, what do I think? What do I feel? What do I want? Which is when Lily realized that she was bisexual. For example, some purity culture survivors will never touch religion or spirituality again, while others reconstruct their faith on their own terms. As for me, I no longer attend church, but I do still believe in something greater than myself. And the one time in my life that it spoke to me, it turned everything I learned in purity culture on its head. Was it the voice of God? I think so, but I'm going to let you all decide for yourselves. Here's what it said. The greatest gift I have ever given you is the gift of choice. When you make choices based on what you fear others will think, you give my gift to them. It's not for them. It is for you. Whether we were raised in evangelicalism or Islam or Orthodox Judaism or Catholicism or just the world, so many of us have shaped our lives around what others have wanted for and from us. But I'm here to tell you that when you begin to claim who you really are and to make choices out of that place, it changes everything. I am taking back my gift of choice.
Okay.
Okay, so thoughts?
Me or you first?
You go first.
Okay, I go first. So, during the whole message, I heard there's a few occurrence of it, of not being able to. I heard a few occurrence of not being able to express yourself, or like not being able to suppress the
Suppressing your emotions.
yeah. And then it says that it has to suppress the emotion and feeling and not convey it out. You know?
Mm-hmm.
this purity culture that she mentioned.
Yep.
And then I keep on seeing, like, I mean, all her message also, that the testimony from one of the participants, that one of a friend one of a friend one of a friend was that she say that at the last part she say is, why can't I hear from myself out, something like that.
Yeah.
So I felt that looking at the occurrence of the message and stuff like that, it's really the, like, something happened in the past that doesn't let them to express their emotion, their feeling, their thoughts, and then to put purity culture as the blame is a bit. Yes, purity culture play a fact of it for not letting you to express it and stuff like that, but I think it's you still can express it. Wait, sorry, I'm like, oh my god, my voice is jammed already.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, what I'm saying is that I think purity culture is not the real issue here. The real issue is not being able to express yourself.
Yeah. And then I remember you mentioned this before. You mentioned that it's an issue of free will.
Yeah, free will. Portion of responsibility.
Yeah, portion
of our own responsibility. Yeah.
You know, you wanna elaborate on that?
Oh yeah. So God give us 95 like
5%.
God give us 5% of responsibility, and God do the 95%.
Yeah.
But our 5% of responsibility is 100%. So yeah, that's why free will exists.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. And that's why we have free will. We have the freedom to do what we want. Actually, God will not intervene whether or not we're doing something right or wrong, because we have the free will to fulfill our responsibility. So
yeah,
it's clear that well, even when you're in religion, because actually I agree with you. What I am seeing is an issue of not being able to build yourself, not being able to build your personality, not being able to build your dreams, not being able to express yourself. None of it has anything to do with purity, in my opinion. I mean, except for maybe the what's the word? Maybe in the beginning where it's like, you know, they say you cannot have a boyfriend, you can't do this, you can't do that. It related to purity and sex, but I just feel like it's about their whole being. It's like I think it's more like they felt that their whole being was, I guess, manufactured by someone else instead of me growing up naturally, building my own personality. It just kind of felt like my own personality was being built up by someone else, which is why she said at the very end, she said that she kind of heard something, you know, like I guess in a way maybe God was speaking out to her that I gave you the gift of choice, and if you give that choice to other people, it becomes their gift, when it should be when this gift is for you. But I think, well, if I were to add on, I would say for you and me, means the gift of choice is to help you and me together, because we are one with God. You know, that is the purpose of religion. So yeah, you know, I think that this is an issue of using purity culture as some sort of checklist instead of using purity culture to improve yourself as a person, to build yourself as a person. I think they weren't able to build themselves as a person to all these so-called survivors, you know.
And I don't think they are the problem. I don't think they are the one who is like doing it, because I'm pretty sure they were young during the purity culture time. I think it's more like the pastor or like the person who is giving the lecture. They are not giving, they're not emphasizing correctly, which gives a lot of problem.
I 100% agree. I mean, I think it's the people in their lives, the pastors, the community, their parents.
Parents as well. Yeah.
I think considering that so many people are expressing this issue, they say that they were traumatized for this. Perhaps, I mean, here's the thing: I didn't grow up Christian. I don't know what it's like. I think there is a possibility that there is a wrong approach to their teaching, which is why there is the biblical criticism of purity culture, is that there is a wrong emphasis. So before we go to the second YouTube video, I would like to look through a few articles that I have found. So
what do you find?
So I found a few interesting things,
I'm
and
interested.
so so first of all, let us look at this. This is a blog post.
10 signs you're a woman who grew up in
Toxic purity culture.
culture.
So yeah, so this is a blog post. This is by someone, and honestly speaking, this blog page is such a red flag because like there is the zodiac and horoscope. Honestly speaking, look, I love seeing like zodiac and horoscope stuff, but if there is a website that's so focused on this, is honestly a red flag. But nevertheless, this is a blog post by a woman, and she says that there are 10 common signs that you grew up in toxic purity culture. And the
10
reason
signs. Okay, let's look at it.
And the reason why I chose this is because
Why,
her
why?
best friend was a second gen.
Oh.
Her best friend was a second gen.
The best friend was second gen.
Yeah. So okay, and then and here's the thing: she used the term Moonies,
Yeah.
which is like
I can't believe you found the site though.
yeah, I also can't believe I found it. Which yeah, I guess so. Like they always want to call us Moonies. I mean, you kind of gave us a cute name, but whatever. And so the thing is that this person quotes. For those who are not in the known, Moonies are a cult that has a very serious bent on purity culture and controlling sexuality.
Serious ban. What is serious ban?
Means it's like an expression of like they are very serious about purity culture. It's basically saying that they are very serious about it.
Yeah.
And they are controlling our sexualities.
I think we control our own, but anyway.
Anyways, yeah. So this author of this blog post, she said, I was adjacent to purity culture most of my life because of the era I grew in. Kayla, which is the second gen, the best friend, on the other hand, was hit with it hard. Purity culture, in my opinion, is one of the most evilest things I've ever witnessed in society. It is the belief that a woman's sexual purity is tantamount to a value. Once again, why do they keep on talking about? Look, okay, they keep on talking about the woman. Look, like I said, this is like I said, I did not grow up in Christian church. I did not grow up in a Christian community. I do not know how much of the purity is emphasized to the woman, but boys have equal responsibility for purity. Don't you think so? Don't you think? I mean, here's the thing. I think this is why. The Unification Church is different, because the Unification Church emphasize purity for both genders, both sex, both boys and girls, both men and women have to abide to purity rules, to sexual purity, sexual integrity. You know, both side has equal responsibility. One is not responsible for the other.
I was shocked about this. It's a belief that a woman's sexual purity is tantamount to her value.
Means like a woman only has sexual purity to offer. If she has
that's a problem.
If
statement.
she has sex before marriage, then she's no longer a good woman.
I think that's the statement there is a bit problem, but yeah.
The statement is a big problem.
I think that the woman have a lot of different kinds of values.
She is clearly very angry because I've read this article in advance, and I'm gonna show you what I mean.
Oh, you're going dive deep in, whoa.
So and I thought, like, honestly speaking, look, this person is clearly a feminist in a negative way. Like, you know, there are some feminists who are really insufferable. So here are 10 signs that you're a woman who grew up in purity culture.
Okay.
Number 1, and now I'll also judge myself as a woman who grew up in purity culture. Number 1, you self-injure or suffer from an eating disorder.
What?
So the thing is that, just to continue on, this person says there seems to be a strong correlation between people who grew up in purity culture and eating disorders. For part of the whole culture is the idea that your body doesn't belong to you, but rather your future husband. If you don't look skinny enough, you won't get a husband in these circles. A lot of moms seem to enjoy picking apart what their kids eat in this class, which is why a lot of kids end up seeing food as impure. And then you will see a lot of, a lot of girls in purity culture who are very skinny or who don't eat a lot. So,
wow.
I do not know. I mean, look, if you don't look skinny enough, you won't get a husband. Look, I have never heard of that. I have never heard of this term. I've never heard of this phrase, if you don't look skinny enough, you won't get a husband. At least my mother has never said that to me. Has your mother ever said that to your sisters?
No, of course not.
So look, like I said, I'm not from America. I did not grow up in the Christian community. I do not know if this really happens, but I don't think it makes sense. And obviously, if those mothers really say, if you don't look skinny enough, you won't get a husband. It's clearly weird. But I feel like it does happen in Asian culture though, not gonna lie. Whether or not Christian or non-Christian. I feel like there are some Asian mothers who like tell their, like, you know, in Asian cultures, like,
yeah.
they either tell you are too fat or too skinny. In
Very
Asian
direct, yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
you know. So anyways, number two, you rebelled hard when you got away from the culture. Eventually, a lot of women are tired of trying to live up to all these insane standards of being the perfect, pretty feminine thing that has no feelings aside from awe at a man who doesn't do crap after he put a ring to it. When they get tired being thrown down by another woman, wholly good people, they tend to swing in the opposite direction. They might do adult videos, they might start sleeping with a bunch of people, they might start dress provocatively just to upset people, annoying them. So basically they say that wow, so basically they say that women who leave purity culture, they start sleeping around, they start doing porn videos and dress inappropriately. Like somehow that's better. Like somehow that is healthier for you. It's healthier for you to sleep around with a lot of people. And also, like, why are you talking shit about a man? Like, why do you assume every man who gets married, why do you assume that every man who marries you does not do their part as a husband? Like, this is a lot. Like, this is a lot of assumption based. Then, okay, number 3 is a bit more serious.
It's very sad. I mean, looking at the statement. I mean, the article. What's the article?
Yeah.
Article of the person right here is purely just. First of all, it's very sad for the article person, and also very sad for the person who experienced that and actually did the opposite swing.
Yeah, meaning like sleeping with people, getting into porn. Yeah.
She probably observed it from different types of people, different people to be able to make this article. So I feel that it's very sad.
Yeah, it is very sad. And then number 3, so this one, it's really hard to comment on this, but I'll just say it. Number 3, you were sexually assaulted, molested, or raped and never got justice. Look, this is when you have a society that base an entire value on her staying a virgin, sexual predators basically get a free for all. They know that the girl won't tell because it would hurt them more than bring justice to their door. If a girl in a religious extremist society speaks out, people invariably blame her for tempting the man. I don't know how to comment on this because you know I cannot imagine the position of being violated as a woman. It is very, very traumatizing. And I do agree that the people you open up to, the people that you try to get help from, they have played a huge part, and if they fail to help you, it is honestly really horrible.
Yeah,
I do not know if religion plays a factor on whether or not you are likely to get your justice, whether or not the people are likely to help you. I mean, because apparently it is very common that when you get sexually assaulted, people tend to ask you, what were you wearing? Means like, were you wearing something that provoked them?
Like police will ask.
Police, parents, or what? There is a common saying, like they will ask, you know, yes, your clothing can trigger someone. Your clothing can be provocative. You know, sometimes you could wear something that obviously gets attraction, but regardless of what you were wearing, you don't deserve to be assaulted again. You don't deserve to be assaulted and all this. And but you know, I don't know if a girl, like let's say a religious girl getting raped and speaking out to her pastor, I don't know if, let's say, her pastor shames her. I don't know if this is from a perspective of, oh, you must have tempted the man or something. I think this is not a religious thing. I think it's a psychology thing, because I've read somewhere that when people encounter tragic news, they have this psychology to rationalize it. Like, oh, something must have caused this to happen. Like, for example, the Itaewon crowd surf, the Itaewon crowd crash. Do you know about the Itaewon Halloween crowd crash that happened 2 years ago?
Oh, a lot of people got stampeded.
Yes. So, actually, obviously that was very tragic news. A lot of people died, but there were some people on the internet who kind of victim blame the victims, because like saying like, why would you stay there, or why would you go there if you knew there were so many people? Like, it's like a lot of people died. It's because you stayed there, you refused to leave. So it was kind of like they were rationalizing the situation, because psychologically they don't want to acknowledge that this is truly a tragic case that could happen to anyone. if they rationalize a cause behind it, it's easier to digest it, because it's like, okay, as long as I don't do this, I will not encounter this. Of and another example would be like serial killers, you know. Like I watch a lot of true crime, and actually one thing about true crime is that one thing we're always curious about is the serial killer's childhood, because we want to find out if there was any factor in their childhood that caused them to become like this. Like, for example, they were abused, they were molested, or whatever. So and when we actually listen to that, we were like, oh, it's because something happened to them, that's why they became like this. And if, let's say, we encounter a serial killer that grew up normally, but they somehow wanted to kill multiple people, that is much more disturbing to us, because this is like, why did he do this if he grew up normally, you know? So I think this is a psychology thing, not necessarily a religious thing. I will skip around a little bit. Then sign number 7, you feel isolated from mainstream society. And then ex-Cults member tend to feel very isolated from mainstream world, especially if mainstream media was verbatim in their previous cycles. I actually went through something of a major modern music binge when I was around 12. Before that, I was not allowed to listen to any music made after 1980s or even so. Even modern TV shows were not allowed.
Aside from Nickelodeon.
Yeah, so I guess it's because like...
Oh, this person...
I guess because like some parents, they are so afraid of their children being exposed to very like...
secular content,
maybe sexual content. Like, basically, like, because, you know, you have to admit that nowadays mainstream movies, like for example on Netflix, like if you watch Western shows on Netflix, there will always be sex scenes in it, something like that. Or like the music, like nowadays music has a lot of sexual references to it. So I think so I guess in a way it's like when parents have certain fear that something in what they are consuming could teach them wrong things, they kind of tend to heavily censor it. So I think this is a family issue. Like obviously parents have a responsibility to monitor, but they cannot be extreme. They need to they need to find a balance. So I think this was actually a family issue. Okay, number 8, you deal with addictions. I notice a lot of people who escape cults often have addictions with hard drugs and drinking. Most of the time is to deal with trauma. Trauma. I mean, do we know anyone who has left our church dealing with addictions? Like drinking, drugs, cigarettes. Do we know?
The only reason why you enter addiction is probably because you have some problem.
Yeah, honestly, addiction is often a sign of a deep root problem. So it's really hard to say. Like I say, addiction is also something that's very broad, very complex, and I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think it is possible that people who live their religion tends to go into addiction because there is a sign of something wrong. I mean, after all, if you leave the religion, it means there's something wrong, right?
Yeah.
Number 9, you get leery around people who advertise how good and religious are. Meaning, like, leery means that you get very uncomfortable around people who advertise. So the moment I see someone acting like they are the moral authority in any capacity, I back away and I get very angry. Most people who escape this type of cultures have this reaction. So the thing is that, like, so basically they're saying that, like, I'm not allowed to be openly religious because you get angry if I'm openly religious. Like, this is honestly so selfish. Like, people are not allowed to express how religious they are.
I think
like how much the religion helps them just because it's all about you, basically.
Yeah. I think the number 9 is more towards their own trauma. Let's say the association with the words. Like if they put purity culture, like, oh, purity culture, and then if you emphasize in your mind, it's like purity culture is bad. Yeah. So therefore you hear anything that is purity, you're like, "Bo, get out of me," something like that.
Exactly.
And then which is a problem of what Joanne say, not being able to be true to our own brother and sister and listen open-mindedly. Yeah, so I think that's a bit more, will cause more problems.
Yeah. Then the last sign is you struggle with self-esteem issues. Shocker. Apparently reducing women to a uterus has to be protected, and turning women to soulless objects for men to use will mess up a woman's self-esteem. The expressions you use, reducing women to a uterus that has to be protected and turning women to soulless objects for men, it's honestly such a disturbing sentence to read. Like, what do you mean all I am is someone that gives birth to children? Like, no, like, I go to university and all this. Like, I really don't know what this person went through. I really don't know what this person was taught. And then the fact that they like to also drag men into this and be like, oh, we are just objects for men to use. I feel like there is just something very disturbing in your viewpoint. Like, and also, what is the also, like, I'm very curious to know what was said to her to make her have this kind of interpretation.
Yeah.
Women who live in purity culture are beaten down both verbally and physically by people. It gives a lifetime of damages that takes decades to her. So with that, I say screw purity culture. But here's the thing.
Well, that can be like the.
But here's the thing: is sleeping around with multiple men not damaging to you? Is engaging in one night stands not damaging to you? Is it like, do you think that's healthier? Is having the fears that you might be pregnant unexpectedly if you miss your period not damaging to you? I don't know, but clearly this author is very angry.
Yeah, we can see.
She's very angry, and she has very negative views of religion and very negative views of men. So this is clearly a feminist. And I just think that maybe she misinterpreted a lot of things. Maybe
Was taught wrong.
Maybe she was taught wrong. Maybe her parents did not do things right. Maybe there were a lot of mistakes her parents made. But
Maybe there's a lot
I
of
wish
factors.
that those people who claim that purity culture is toxic, those people who talk about their experience, I wish that they develop their own personality. It's just that they sound like they sound like they have no personality. Like you can build your own personality but still abide to purity laws, and purity rules. It's like you can be someone, you can be an engineer and all this, but nevertheless, this is not the point. And Alvin, there's an article I want you to talk about. This is in the perspective of men. So obviously, this whole time I've been talking about women, how it harms women, but I found an article that claims that it also harms men. So I found this, and this is for you to talk about, because to be honest, I've been speaking most of the time, so I need you to share your thoughts as well.
Alright, wait. I remember I wanted to say a few stuff for the last article, a bit more, just a bit. I'll say that yeah, I do think that maybe in the past the person was presented purity culture to them in a way to keeping purity and stuff like that. I don't know how much emphasis of how good or bad was it, but I'll say that the pastor or something, give them the option of purity culture, and then I would to say that they were not able to show their emotion and their feeling, their thoughts, all would be rejected instantaneously by their family or like their peers and pastor, and maybe even looked down. And then I think that they cause them to like question a lot and keep it inside them like a time bomb.
Yeah.
And then once like you keep on keeping, then it's like kind of burst like right there. And I felt that maybe if like what happened if like if the person met someone, like can express like that, then I feel that you can create a lot of different possibility of outcome already. Because I think that purity culture is not a problem, but taking in the purity culture to yourself as you want to do it for your own self, and not being forced by peers or friends or stuff like that, but like just being my definition of purity culture is like before marriage must not have sex, no sex, and then able to some stuff of the stuff that they mention is very extreme. So I want to clarify a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like something that internally and externally is pure in heart, and is for heavenly parents, for God.
Yeah.
So what I'll say is that the purity culture is not the problem, but there's an underlying cause, like underlying reason of why a person would feel or react like that.
Yeah.
I'll say. Of course, purity culture is like the the front view, and then we see like this is the thing.
Yeah.
But there's a back view of like maybe not expressing yourself, or not being acknowledged also. And I really wonder, like, is it this is my own, this is me questioning.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking like, what if the reason why they choose a very different approach meaning like lesbian, transgender, something like that.
Yeah.
I feel that maybe because they don't want to do the conventional way. The conventional way is to like not that ma.
Yeah.
So they want to try something different than all of those people because they already take my whole life of before. So I don't do that. I want to do this instead.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was thinking about it, and I was like, is it because that's why they wanted to do all this thing and which cause how they think? I don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
thinking. I'm so
That-
sorry. I go too.
That's a very good point, because like a lot of the OnlyFans models and all like the a lot of like the sex workers that actually pester kids. There is observation that that when you see their background that their father are actually church pastors, which is kind of strange. So clearly there is some sort of psychological correlation. So anyways, due to time restraint, let's quickly move on to this article
Yeah, I'm
that
so
I
sorry.
want to no.
So this article says that the heinous murder of 8 people, 7 of whom were women, at Massage Pure in the Atlanta area have shocked Americans, particularly Americans of Asian descent. Whether or not this proves to be hate crime motivated by race, at the very least, it appears, in my judgment, that it should be deemed a hate crime against women. We should also note that the relationship between racial and sexual identity may well prove difficult to separate in this instance, given the all too common fetishing of Asian women in our culture and the sexualization of Message Pure in particular. Let me continue here. The reason it appears relevant to bring all this up is because of the reported statement by the suspect to police that he had a sexual addiction and had carried out the shooting at the massage
Massage
parlor to eliminate his temptation. Sorry, I'm emphasizing the words here.
Yeah.
Additionally, it seems the suspect was a Baptist member of a Southern Baptist church and was participating in student ministry as recently as 2018. As important as the racial dynamic of this crime are, I want to focus my reflection in this article on the sexual dynamic and its implication for all, perhaps, its indictment against Christian men and church leader. So, first of all, I'm gonna reread the emphasis a bit here. The police. He said that he had a sexual addiction, and then the reason why he killed 8 people,
8 women.
8 women, is because to eliminate his temptation. That is just like
Ridiculous, right?
yeah, very ridiculous. I'm like shaking my head. You can see that. Yeah. So it's very sad also. Because the person also is Baptist, a follower of Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
and to take a person's life is just it's just very sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me continue the article. So in the article there he write a few stuff here. So I'm gonna highlight some words that he says. Now, I do not mean to deny the unique power of sexual temptation in many men experience, but I sometimes wonder if we had given sexual sin more credit than it deserved. I subscribe to the Reformed doctrine of total depravity, every aspect of our humanity in mind and body and soul, and has been somehow tainted by the fall. But sometimes when we're talking about men in particular, we tend to think of their sexuality as especially or even hopelessly deprived. But is that any good theological reason for thinking this? Are men naturally more inclined towards sexual sin than that are towards greed or violence or idolatry or dishonesty? All of these sins appear alongside sexual immorality on New Testament vice list after all. So are men naturally more inclined towards sexual sin? I'll say no. But let me explain here. I'll say that man is more visually
Yes.
and you can control yourself. And I think the reason why the person is so-called it was very hard to control yourself was probably because of the teaching or education was falsely given or like wasn't emphasized in a very wrong aspect, which made him to feel that woman is a temptation and then and it's because of the person mindset, right? It's being polluted and being uh so-called not given the message correctly. The person would like think the thoughts that is how to do this and do this, like how to do that and solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna assume that the person probably have a gun, and I'm gonna assume that the person also has like the most easiest way to solve the problem. So you just shoot something like that, and it's removing a lot of other Bible verse scriptures of the life. Like life is very important. Um, yeah, and I think it's just very sad that the person did that, and I think the reason why he couldn't control, or like he did the kind of act, was because he was falsely educated. Was the education was wrong already. And what I want to say that also is why people would tend to think that man is more inclined towards sexual sin. I think it's because man is more visual, women are more audio. You know, so like which come first? Even if lightning strike, light come first, ma.
Yeah.
So this is, I felt that maybe that's why people would say that man is more naturally inclined more, because anywhere you look, you can literally see.
Yeah.
But here is like something need to be happen first.
That's true. That's true. Also, like, to be very honest, this is my perspective. Even as a woman, I think that God created woman to be more visually enticing compared to men. Like, I think the woman's body compared to men's body is more like eye-catching compared to men's body. You know, even from a perspective of a woman. You know that, which is why I think also, hence. That was because also a lot of, I think that's also a lot of reason why there's a lot of emphasis that women has to protect themselves, and then men cannot help but feel aroused because, you know, you as woman, you're very beautiful, you're built very beautifully, you know. So I think that's also another aspect. Not saying that just because woman was created to be more visually enticing doesn't mean that they have to take the blame from men, but I think it also gives men more responsibility to watch your eyes. This is my perspective.
So on the article it got mentioned also a few good, like one Bible one over here, which I like. The biblical example of King David is often brought up in discussion of sexual sin. Even this great and godly man was vulnerable to temptation when he took Bathsheba. There's a lot that could be said about the way this biblical episode has been talked about in our church, but makes no mistake, David was not a victim here, whether of Bathsheba's supposed seduction or of his own male inclination. He was the abuser of the excellent. That this is important. David was not doing what any godly man may do. If he's not careful, he was acting out of deep and compulsive wickedness that was anything but godly. He was fully responsible, the moral agent who leveraged his power to live out his unrestrained sexual desire, and the death was the result. So, if I'm correct about this one as well, this one, King David, because of he raped the Bathsheba,
Yeah.
his child was offered. So he was like, after that, David did like he asked like for repentance and sorry and stuff like that to God,
Yeah.
but God didn't answer his thing. The child died, basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then that's why the person said, and death was the result. I'm explaining a bit more. So even the King David is like, you know, very king, very high position, is very vulnerable to this kind of temptation. So I'll say is control of their own self. Yeah. And which leads to make other people, worst case scenario, death.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got one quote here. I mean, quote, one like passage of True Father as a peace loving God was citizen here.
Sure.
Okay, let me read it out. The degradation of sexual morality among adults destroys family and leads to the ruin of children. Immorality and licentiousness, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce, in the personal life of adults ultimately destroys the life of their children. the reason today's society does not have a level of happiness to match its level of material affluence is that family are being destroyed. To save family, adults must first live proper life. Then it is possible to raise children in sexual purity. So really, the problem is like all the articles that we read and the statistics, all these things. I felt that they got hurt lah. I'll say they really got hurt lah.
They got hurt, maybe
Yeah,
possibly by their
and
parents.
Yeah, maybe pastor or like teachers or someone that's adult lah, like someone that
Yeah.
they look up to and stuff like that. And then I think that's why they would react in the way that it's very like hatred and stuff like that.
Agree.
And I'll say that they're still human, and now say that I don't want to say that they say a thing and then we should hate them or stuff like that. But it's more like we should give them compassion, love, and stuff like that to understand why did they say such words and like all those things lah. And then in order to so-called have a sexual purity, a purity culture that is good, it needs to have like a work example.
Yeah,
Yeah, good work example.
yeah, a better example.
Yeah, work example. Like what say Joanne? Like who do you think good work example for you in terms of sexual purity?
What do you mean by good work example again?
Like someone that you can follow or like look up to, or like that does this but then does not contradict their own words.
I don't know. I never really thought about who is my role model when it comes to purity. I guess my mom. I guess my mom. I guess my fellow brothers and sisters who like the older ones. Like who grew up as a second gen, who really I mean I don't deny that maybe some of them secretly had their own struggles, but it's more like those that really raised up and they grew up well. They grew up accepting of the church faith, and then they went for then they end up marrying well. They meet their spouse in a very pure manner. I think that's what I would consider a good example, is those that just show such positive energy, they accept the church teachings, they have such positive energy, and then even when they find their spouse, they have it's like they radiate so much happiness. I think that's what I would consider.
Wow, radiate such happiness. Yeah. As for that, that's all.
That's all for your article? Okay.
Yeah.
So due to time is strange, I'm going to skip one article. We'll watch to the second video, and this
Okay.
is the positive aspect of purity.
Take this time, first and foremost, to acknowledge those of you that are abstinent, those of you that have been saving yourself. Some of you are virgins, some of you have chosen celibacy and you don't have sex. Amazing. Bravo. God sees you. It is an amazing thing that you have chosen in this generation, in 2024, to live your life this way. God honors it. It's an amazing thing. But I want you to know that the vernacular, right? The language to say, I'm saving myself from marriage, is quite short-sighted. Why? We've had conversations about purity culture and the harm of purity culture. And the true harm of purity culture is because it overemphasizes the need to protect or preserve yourself in your own strength for an idea that might lead some to idolatry and some to viewing sex wrongly. First and foremost, your body belongs to God. So for those of you that have been saving yourself, recognize that you're not saving yourself for your spouse. You're saving yourself because the Lord that you serve says that it's a sin. Because the scripture tells us that your body, our bodies, belong to God. Listen, it's really, really important that you grasp this. Your body is for God. Your sensuality, your sexuality is subjected and submitted to God. Therefore, this is going to protect you. This understanding is going to protect you. I remember when I was in high school.
Exactly. And I think that's what's missing from all the people who had the criticisms about purity culture, is that I think they were taught so much that you can't taint your body, but they were not taught that your body is precious, your body belongs to God. You know, the reason why we maintain pure is for God to live in us. I think, like, not once has those purity culture mentioned God.
Yeah.
Not once those purity culture criticism mentioned God. They never mentioned anything about God. All they mentioned was themselves, sex, men, marriage. That's all. Not once. So this is really, really important to keep note.
School, and I had a girlfriend, and I found myself along with her, and I got in real compromising positions, but I knew I did not want to have sex before marriage, because in my mind, I'm saving myself for that special person, for the right one. And I got really, really close to fornicate, because at the time she was my girlfriend for a good 8-9 months, and she said this. Her clothes were completely off, and she said, "Don't worry, I'm the one. We're gonna get married anyway." And I end up running out of the room and making my way home. But for some of you that are really involved, you might be even as far as being engaged with someone, and you're thinking in your mind, man, this is the one. I want to be with this person. I love this person. I like this person. I'm attracted to this person. You'll get to that place where you begin to negotiate and rationalize. Well, if we have sex, that just consummates a marriage, just like the scripture. I mean, they're going to stay with me. This is just going to be the one this is my person. You know what? This is not anyone else. It's not really fornicating if we're going to get married in the future. Those ideas are from that way. However, this idea that I'm saving myself for my spouse opens me up to temptation, opens me up to compromise. Two, what I want to say is, some of you don't even know if you're going to end up married. But if we're pushing this idea that you're saving yourself for your spouse, what happens when you're 53 and things are looking bleak? It's not looking hopeful. Your spouse is not looking like they're anywhere in sight. Well, then, what are you going to do? Who are you saving yourself for? Not on schedule. It is really, really important that we make sure that we change the phrase, I'm saving myself for my spouse, to I'm honoring God with my body. God, when you do get married, you still will have to honor God with your body. As a married man, I have to honor God with my body. If I allow myself...
Honestly, I like that. I like that phrasing.
I
I honor my God. I mean, technically, our church is also, technically, our church is also teaching us something like that. Maybe they are not using this particular phrasing, but I think the meaning is very similar. Don't you think so?
Yeah.
Myself to sin with this body, I have dishonored God first. Then I dishonor myself and subsequently dishonor my spouse. But my spouse is the last person in the equation. The scripture tells us when we fornicate, we sin against our own body. But first and foremost, we sin against the God who this body belongs to. It's really, really important that we get this. Secondly, I want to tackle this idea about purity in the first place. Okay, some people think because they're saving themselves, or because they're abstinent, or because they're celibate, that connotes purity. I made a post, it said this: purity does not equal virginity. That purity does not equal abstinence or celibacy. While it's God honoring, yes, but it does not naturally and essentially equal abstinence or celibacy. Purity equals God, the only pure one, has authority over my sexuality. This is extremely
actually, very good point. I mean, like, look, we definitely have some members, like, for example, first gen that joined us, that when they joined us they weren't a virgin, right? Pretty sure we do have that. But then they did their mission, they cleansed themselves, and then they went for the blessing. That even when they went for the blessing, they cleanse themselves, and they unite with their spouse that was given by our church, you know. So yes, true, it does not equate to virginity, even though virginity ideally is ideally virginity is the standard you keep, if that makes sense.
Because so many individuals are not having sex, yet are living in sexual impurity. Because sexual impurity drives deeper than what you're actively doing with one private part. It could be your thought life. It could be the conversations that you engage in. It could be the things that you're watching, allowing yourself to watch. I have a whole video on pornography and how I was addicted to pornography. And for some of you, it might not be pornography, but it could be novels that you're reading. Some of the ladies, they like these novels that are highly sexual. It could be just really, really vulgar jokes. If you're engaging in these types of things, you're not sexually pure. Purity says that my entire body, we just read the scripture, says my entire body, my sexuality is submitted to the only pure one. He makes us pure. It's his righteousness. Scripture tells us in Isaiah that our righteousness is as a filthy rag. So to try to wear the title purity just because you're not allowing penetration, come on now. No. If you're engaging in any way that compromises your sexuality in mind, in thought, in conversation, in body, then you are sexually impure. The beautiful thing about it is there is nothing that we can do in our strength to make us pure because we wear the purity. We wear the righteousness of God. So if you submit your body, submit your mind, submit your thoughts, submit your ways, submit your relationship to God, then you are obedient, right? It's not just submitting in thought, but you're placing your entire life, your ways in subjection to his word. So I use his word to x-ray my life, to x-ray my thoughts, to x-ray my actions, to ensure that I'm walking in alignment with that word. In Romans 12:1, it says, I beseech ye therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God. Our bodies as a living sacrifice, holy. How are our bodies holy? When we submit ourselves to God, then therefore he now owns it, right? He makes it holy. There's no sacrifice that is holy until it's accepted by God. His acceptance, his hands make it holy. So if you desire to be pure, for those of you who have a history, we talk about body count a lot. Does body count matter? It does not matter in Christ's hands. It does not matter in Christ. How do I know that? In 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17, it says, if any man be in Christ, he is what? A new creation. That means when I come into Christ, some people say, I don't believe in born again virgins. Well, Jesus says, when I'm in him, I am pure. I am new. Old things are passed away. That means old things.
Oh, okay. He's saying that. You know what body count means, right?
How many people you have sex with? I'm just
Yes.
assuming.
How many people you have sex with is a body count.
Apparently I was correct.
Okay. I guess body count does not matter when you have repented, when you meet a spouse that is willing to forgive you, but it will make it will not make things easier for you. Because let's be honest for the both of us, when we go for the matching, when we meet someone, when we see a profile that, okay, this person has remained, has followed God's the entire time, has maintained purity, and another one has committed the fall, has had sex experience, which one are we more attracted to?
The person who didn't have sex experience.
Yeah, so that's so yes, it does not matter when you are forgiven, but it will make your life harder. It's a fact.
Old things are dead. All things have become new. So that means my history, it's now buried. It means my body count is now buried. It doesn't mean that there are not consequences for the actions that I committed. There are consequences for your actions, but the chains of the sin, the weight of condemnation that would be upon you no longer belongs to you. Romans 8:1, it says there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. So you can boldly declare that I am pure, not because I didn't let anyone do this or I didn't touch this, but because Jesus Christ has made me pure. He has made me new. So therefore I honor God with my body. I'm just going to make a really, really quick point about honor. What is honor? In relation to this conversation, I always look at honor. I always talk about white tees. I'm going to just use white tees as an example. If my mom gave me a really, really expensive and nice white shirt, that she really, really loved, that she spent a lot of good money on, and she told me to wear it. The way that I would honor that shirt is I would be careful with that shirt. I would watch where I go. I would watch what I do. I'd be mindful about my surroundings to make sure that I preserve that which she gave me because she believed it was valuable. So I, in turn, adopt her understanding and her heart towards the gift she gave me, and I preserve, I uphold, and I use it in a worthy way. In the same way, God has called us pure. He has made our vessels pure. The way that we honor it is we adopt his understanding about it. If God says, I'm precious, then I'm going to live in a precious way. Call. God has given you something, and the way that we honor it is we say, God, I'm going to adopt the way you see it. I'm going to adopt the way you feel about it. So if this body is yours, I'm going to take care. I'm going to be careful. I'm going to steward this great and amazing gift that you've given me accordingly. And I'm going to align my behavior with someone who values what you consider as valuable. So I honor God with my body.
Really nice, really,
Yeah.
really nice video.
Yeah.
So, actually, I forgot to pause at one moment just now, which was that he said that just because you're not having penetrative sex doesn't mean you are pure. You know, sometimes you could be a virgin but still engaging porn, or the thoughts you are thinking, the content you're watching, or even the jokes you make. You know, so yes, so that is very true. Is that so it is very true. Is that it is not just what decision you make, is about how you represent your entire life, you know. So that is a very, very true point.
I
So-
felt that that one I noticed when I researched about purity, right? I have just like, oh, I noticed something. Is there's a categorization of internal purity and external purity.
okay.
And apparently maybe it's because our church use the terminology of internal and external very more than other people. So internal is mostly to our heart and stuff like that. External is like action and stuff like that. So I just noticed that the penetration is more towards external one.
Yeah.
Internal one is more towards the thoughts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I just like noticed, and I think also it's very good to emphasize it because like when you say purity, it's like very vague, you know.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
very broad term.
Yeah, it's a broad term. And then yeah, man, the terminology is actually very important.
Yeah, actually, the terminology, how we express it, and how we actually define it. Actually, we need to be very clear. Actually, I feel like I feel like the way we the way we define it, the way we express it, and what is our standards is very, very important. Which I think that the people who claim that purity culture failed them, I think these factors were lacking. Like they weren't, the definition wasn't really clear, the standards wasn't clear, and what was supposed to be represented wasn't clear. The first article, where it's kind of like a Q&A, and then like they ask why is sexual purity so important. What God says about sexual purity, you should be sanctified. Sanctified means to look things in a holy way, that you should avoid sexual immorality, that each of you should learn how to control his own body in a way that's holy and
honorable.
well, not in passionate lust like the heathens who do not know God. You know, for God did not call us to be impure, but to live a holy life. So this is about the lifestyle, that actually being sexually pure represents the lifestyle you're living. So, because the thing is that to continue in sexual impurity is to deny the gift that we were given by God, to deny the sacrifice that Jesus has made, you know. And lastly, the purity is a necessity of controlling our bodies. When we give in into sexual immorality, we give evidence that the Holy Spirit is not filling us because we do not possess one of the fruits of the Spirit, self-control.
You know, I was like shocked, you know, I read this, I was like, self-control, Holy Spirit.
This is the perfect, because honestly speaking, when for people who are having premarital sex, for people who are sleeping around a lot, actually the reason why they do that is because they cannot control their sexual drive, you know. Everyone has a sex drive, you know. This is biology. God also created us to have a sex drive, but it's about, is your sex drive controlling you, or are you controlling your sex drive?
Oh wow, well, clip that.
Yeah. You know, if not, you're no different than an animal. You're not different than a cat attacking a female cat when they're in heat. You're no different than that. So, and also we have to remember that that like, would you rather have someone who was careful, who lived his life with discipline, who did not sleep around, or would you rather be in a society that maybe a woman has a child because she was pregnant when she was 15, or a man has AIDS because he slept with someone and got HIV for them? Or would you want someone who has a history of STDs, and you don't even know if they are fully cleared from it, and or or would you want to, or do you want to meet a woman who has had abortion, killed her child? And one thing about abortion is that if you have too many abortions, it could literally damage your body. It could affect fertility. So, like, actually,
Oh my gosh.
what do you aim to achieve? It's but one thing I have to say for this article, the reason why I chose this article says purity is not the final solution to AIDS, porn, or teenage pregnancy. Worship is, which is what we keep on emphasizing, that it's not about whether or not you have sex, it's about what are you doing when you are not married. Are you building a relationship with God? Purity is not the ultimate key to a better marriage or better sex. Worship is. But teenagers weren't angsty about worship, they were angsty about marriage, sex, pregnancy, and disease. So that's where the messaging often went. So actually I think a lot of the people that they were not taught about, I don't think they were taught about how to build a good relationship with God. All they were taught is about,
don't go to that place.
don't go to meet boys, don't go this.
Yeah.
All they were taught, but they're not taught about, while you are married, why don't you read the Bible more? Why don't you pray more? Why don't you, take the time to understand Jesus' sacrifice? They are not taught like this. And also one thing we have to remember, that God has given sex such unusual power for good in marriage, and it has unusual power for destruction everywhere else. Look, God has never said that sex is bad. Sex is good within the boundaries of marriage, but it is not good outside of marriage. Actually, it's been so clear. But because there are some people say, even after I got married, I struggled to have sex because I felt so much shame. Then I think that you were not taught about the true value of sex. Anyways, our last thing is that God has not called us for impurity, but in holiness. When God will work through us when we engage in sexual purity, He will give us the holiness. So anyways, let us go into, so we'll just look through a few statistics. I also found statistics. So I think one thing about people who claim that purity culture is toxic and stuff, and they say that we shouldn't be controlling people, but I think that I think that without purity, infidelity rates increase. More and more people have been cheating on their spouses, cheating on their partners, and then divorce rates is in STDs. Like in 2022, half of reported cases of STDs were among adolescents and young adults age 15 to 24. Like almost half of reported STDs are like in the youths. Like that's how young they are. And like let's talk about the most common STD, which is chlamydia. In 2022, a total of 1.6 million cases of chlamydia was reported, making it the most common STD. 1.6 million.
Wait, so there's different types of
STD. There is the not so serious, and there are some. Okay, so some are not so very serious. They can be treated with antibiotics, but they are very uncomfortable. Some can be very serious. Some can cause very serious consequences. There's even an STD called, look, I forgot how to pronounce this, but I think it's syphilis or syphilis. This can actually spread to your child.
Really?
It can actually be passed to your children.
No.
It can happen. And then of course HIV. HIV is obviously the most serious STD. So yeah, there's multiple types of STDs, and all of them have very high rates. Sexual violence. I think sexual violence has also increased because people are not practicing purity, sexual integrity, because people are not learning to control themselves. Like honestly speaking, rapists, people who rape other people, they are no different than animals, in my opinion. Then dating violence. Dating violence is increasing. Up to 19% of teens experience dating violence.
19%.
19% of teens face dating violence. And then also, like, here's the thing: if you claim that sex is for your own personal satisfaction, for your own pleasure, that you should not be restricting yourself, why is the depression rate so high? Like why, like the depression rates in the US has reached new highs. I believe in 2023 or 2022, you know, it has in 2023, depression rates in America has reached all new highs. It increased. The percentage of US adults who report having been diagnosed with depression has reached 29%, you know, nearly 10% higher in 2015. So people are more depressed. People are more depressed, and abortion, of course, abortion is a given that now globally, like around 73 million
73 million
abortions take place worldwide each year.
each year.
6 out of 10 6 out of 10 of all unintended pregnancies, means pregnancies that you did not want to happen, 6 out of 10 end up in abortion.
Oh.
6 out of 10, which is like more than half of unintended pregnancies end up in abortion.
I was like 73 million is like 73 millions of
Will-
life.
will follow, yes. And of course, porn. In 2019, Pornhub shared its annual statistics: 42 billion visitors in a year, 150 million a day, 5 million an hour, and almost 80,000 a minute of visitors. According to one website, Pornhub is the fourth most visited website in the United States, behind Google, YouTube, and Facebook. Pornhub totaled over 2.4 billion visits during a single month in 2023, more than Instagram, Netflix, Pinterest, and TikTok combined. So which means like Pornhub was literally like overtook all the common social media accounts. So this is the statistics we're looking at, and this is, I think all these statistics that I pulled out is a reflection of society not valuing sexual purity. Now let us move to, okay, now that we have gotten all these facts, these reactions and stuff, now let us like have a bit of more of a personal talk.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about us. How was our experience with purity in when we were growing up? When our parents, our church leaders, our church elders, when they were teaching us about purity, how was it? How was our experience? Elvin, you go first.
I go first?
Yeah.
My experience. I mean, for me, it came more normally, I would say. I mean, like, it doesn't really affect me because I was not really interested in relationship before marriage.
I see. So it was just natural to you.
Yeah, it's just natural.
I see.
Like, I would focus on other stuff more, like
I
playing
see.
games.
That's cool. That's cool. Honestly, that's cool. But you know,
But-
for me, I think I have a more interesting story. For me, talking like, but because for us, purity means no dating, no having boyfriend, girlfriend. For me, I kind of struggled with that in the beginning. Like when I first learned about the blessing and stuff like that when I was like young, my mom told me that, you know, it was true father matching them together. So actually, when I was a kid, I was so confused. What do you mean someone is choosing your husband or your wife for you, like not you choose yourself? And then because, you know, I watch all the Disney fairy tales about, you know, like Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, you know, the prince come and save you. Like I kind of like had this fantasy like, oh, I will meet my true love in such a
heroic side.
in like and then to find out that literally I'll get married by someone choosing for me, it was like so anticlimactic. And I was like, someone's gonna choose a husband for me? like it feels like it felt so restrictive. It felt like, where's my freedom in choosing my true love? You know, I kind of actually I struggled with like not being able, like I struggle with the idea that someone's gonna choose my spouse for me. But of course, as I got older and I understood the values, I listened to testimonies, obviously. But yeah, you know, I think it was more on the fact that I could not have a boyfriend or something like that. Like I think I idealized relationships a lot. Like when I saw couples, I was like, oh, so sweet, so sweet. Like I idealized that. But then as I got older, I understood things because, like, you know,
It's not just that.
because I learned a lot of things. I saw a lot of situations with my friends, which will be another question we'll be discussing soon. So yeah, so basically, for Elvin, you embraced it pretty naturally, but for me, it took me a bit of time. It took me a bit of understanding, you know. And then, how do you think purity has helped your life?
For me is beauty had affected my life. I'll say the teachings, not only purity, but our church teaching is really affected in my life. Words that became so common to me that for other people that it's not common, it's uncommon. And then like share. I don't go too deep, but I share a bit of story ish. Like during my high school time, a lot of people respect me for modesty and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then one person in particular got say like say stuff that only only the because you are a church person. That's why you can do it. Then I was shocked by his words, by why he said like that. And I didn't go to full detail on the story and stuff like that. But but basically what I'm saying is that he confirmed my belief on the thing. It's like people confirm my belief, you know.
Okay. That's nice. Then let's for this question, like let's try to imagine ourselves in an alternate world, in a world that we did not grow up with the church. We grew up in an atheist family. We did not grow up with being taught purity. Our parents taught us you can do whatever you want. Do you think if we did not grow up with purity culture, do you think like how would we like? Do you think we'll be better off without the so-called restraints of purity culture? Like do you think we'll be better off, or do you think we'll be worse off?
So based on the question, I will not be born at all because purity culture is rooted in our religion.
Okay.
Yeah, and but let's say if really I was born, okay, if I'm pretty sure it would be a terrible person because for my education knowledge is already pre-rooted before I can even read. So I already have like I learned more values, stuff like that.
Okay.
More younger age when I don't know how to read.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why the education and all the things really bone marrow to my bones earlier. But
it's already like in your bones.
Yeah, so I'm saying that if it's not there, then I'll become a very, very different person.
You know, if I did not grow up if let's say like we live in an alternate world, I didn't grow up in the church, my family is atheist or what, because here's the thing, I'm a woman, right? I'm a woman. I feel like, okay, first things first, maybe I would have had multiple relationship experience. Maybe I had experienced multiple boyfriends and stuff. You know, maybe I would have been, maybe I wouldn't be maybe I wouldn't be modest. Maybe the way I dress wouldn't be very modest. You know, and here's the thing about a woman, especially if I made the choice to engage. If let's say in an alternate world, I chose not to, I chose not to save my virginity for marriage, and I engaged in premarital activities. You know, like there's a probability I can get pregnant. You know, like obviously I do not want to think about that. That sounds very horrifying. But this is the reality, that in an alternate world, if I did not value the values of sexual purity, you know, then it definitely exposes me to risk of getting pregnant as a woman. And also you said like how like purity has helped your life, and I think purity has helped my life in the sense that it protected me, because I remember my high school very well. I had a lot of friends who went through a lot of drama, a lot of situations, and it kind of links to purity and religion. There were so many situations, and it was always relationship dramas, boyfriend girlfriend dramas, and all this, you know. So it actually protected me, you know. Like so there's like there are guys in my class. There's a group of guys in my class. They are like in one friend group, and here's the thing. For context, also there obviously there's popular girls in my school because they were very pretty. There was a period of time they were kind of rotating girlfriends between them.
What?
Like okay, there was one particular girl that she was pretty popular because she's pretty. It was like this. There's four of them. This guy liked her, but then the other guy got into a relationship with her. And then after they broke up, this guy liked her. It's like, and then all this. And then also, then after that, the fourth guy became best friends with her. You know, it was like honestly so strange. Like this one girl like impacted all four boys, and also like also many of them, they got into relationships really young, like 14,
Mm.
15, and then their relationship is like 1 month. But then during that relationship, they're like on the phone for like 14 hours, you know.
I
You know,
see.
it's like honestly really unhealthy. And then I don't know, it's just like it's so strange. And then I definitely remember more, but this is all that I can remember at the moment. Then there was also another situation with my friend. There was a little bit of a puppy love between them and all this, but then this guy, he ended up liking another girl.
What?
And then he was like, oh, I don't want to continue this with you. And then he was the one acting weird when my friend was kind of cheated on. Like kind of cheated on, because he ended up developing feelings for another girl. So the thing is that I kind of realized that maintaining purity, not having boyfriend, girlfriend, protected my peace.
Yeah.
It protected my peace. Actually, my life was so peaceful during high school because I did not I was more of the bystander. I was watching my friends go through that, which honestly, look, I feel for. Which brings me to the next question: do you really need a boyfriend / girlfriend when you're in high school? Because I think that's a lot of that's, I think that's like a huge struggle by the like a huge struggle for many like people, whether it be in our church or other religions or people under purity cultures, that like you can't engage in romantic situations when you're a teenager, romantic / sexual situations when you're a teenager. But like, do you really need it? Do you really need a boyfriend? Do you really need a girlfriend? You know, when in your teenager years, really need one? Like, are you really that lonely?
Are you really that lonely? But for me, you're asking like, do you really need a girlfriend and boyfriend? And also next one is like,
Can you really find love as a teenager? So we can answer them both together.
I'll go them both together. So, I'm engaged. Okay, I'm I'm very thankful for her parents, my parents, and her, and their parents. So let me say a few stuff here. Depends. Do you really need a boyfriend or girlfriend? Well, it depends on your reason on wanting a boyfriend or girlfriend. First of all, you can try to ask the question of why do you need it? Is it because of pure pressure of everyone having it, or is something in which your heart hurts and you want to feel in it? I really do not recommend for that one, the heart hurts one, because it does not help you at all. It will affect not only you but also people surrounding you, the brother and sister.
I agree.
Yeah, it really feels like you're using them. It's just very painful. Let's say if you are capable in loving others, and in your heart, and also if you have no self problem. I'm not saying to be a perfect person, but I'm saying like more like in your heart. Are you ready to serve that person? Like to give that person love even though there's a difficult scenario? For sure, 100% stuff will happen. And
Yeah.
you will probably will be like, oh, you like the love will decrease and like that. Are you still willingly to love that person even though that person like shot you with a sniper? And then you can cry for days and days.
Yeah.
So like this kind of like commitment, are you still able to love the person? It's like you really do need to question about it. It really ties to love with responsibility.
Yeah.
Love is not just you or yourself. You affect a lot of stuff. You, them, parents, God. So let's just say how do you love the person? You know, like I want like question, because I'm going through this like step by step. I feel that you need to have a center point. And I really do think that God, Heavenly Parents, is something in the relationship is very, very crucial. Because why? You are able to look in God's perspective, the parents' perspective, and to love the person. Not as in how they hurt you with a sniper, but how to love them as for what they are lacking or what they need of. And it will create a very set of new thinking for yourself to push forward to love the person, to continue the relationship and not just divorce because of something happened.
Okay. Very good point. Very good point. Also, actually, for me, when it comes to do you really need a boyfriend, girlfriend during your teenage years? Can you really find love as a teenager? Look, I know a few people from my high school that got together during high school and they are actually still together. I think one couple actually got married.
Oh, wow.
So I do know that there are some teenage couples, some high school couples that actually end up making it, that actually end up surviving. So I'm not denying anything. I'm not saying that it doesn't work out, but I will say that the statistics of it working out is very low. You have to be pretty lucky, or you have to be pretty committed, as you say, pretty committed. But and to be honest, the reason why I think that high school relationships, teenage relationships, and that teenagers don't really need relationships in their teenagers, because here's the thing: when I look at majority of these teenage relationships, I don't see it permanent. Like there's just something, like when I look at them, when I look at the relationship, like I'm just like they would like I always look at it and be like they will definitely break up. I never look at it as like there's just something about the relationship that, like, even though they appear very sweet and all so obsessed, have to sit together, there's just something about their relationship that does not scream permanent, that screams short term. Because honestly speaking, it doesn't look like they are in the relationship for them. For like, it doesn't look like they're in the relationship because they care about each other. I mean, I'm pretty sure they care about each other to an extent, because they are there because of the person they choose to be with. I feel like they are there because the relationship satisfies something for them. And then once that satisfaction has died down, that's when they move on to someone else, you know? So it's just that it does not, like, the relationship does not scream, I'm in a relationship with you because I serve something for you, I care for you, and you also serve something for me. Okay, like, it doesn't give and take. It just gives take and take.
Say that again.
It doesn't give and take. Like, the relationship doesn't represent give and take. It just represents take and take.
Take and take. Oh.
This is what I felt whenever I saw, like, teenage relationships, even college relationships. It just, like, there was just something about those relationships that does not sit right with me. It just always made me feel like they would definitely break up, and they would, when they did break up, I never felt surprised, you know. So yeah, but of course, nevertheless, I know some people who were in relationships during their teenage years and they actually survived, they actually got married, actually have kids. So obviously for those people, congratulations to them. But what I will say is that most teenagers, when they look for a relationship, they're looking for companionship, or like, if the teenager or if the person that they are attracted to is usually very attractive, like very physically attractive, like very pretty, very handsome, it's usually also because of what externally they look like. Like, oh, if I'm in a relationship with a very pretty person or a very handsome person, wow, like wow, so so amazing, you know, like
Really?
yeah, you know, like I mean, there's a reason why a very pretty girl in school will get a lot of male's attention.
I see.
You know, like,
I
in a way,
see.
it's like, but the thing, yeah, like, and also, like, many teenagers, they get into a relationship with someone based on the appearance rather than the heart as well. So that's why.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is my personal observation. So let us have our concluding remark. Let's first say once and for all, is purity culture actually topic? After all the discussion we had, is it really that toxic, in your opinion? Do you believe?
No.
No. I think what I think it's that the laws, the rules surrounding purity, according to the Bible, according to religious teachings, they are not toxic, but the way that they are taught can be toxic. It means it can go either way. It can either really benefit you, or if it's not taught correctly, it can actually harm you, which is why many women were harmed, you know. I think purity, so just to make it clear, the concept of purity is not toxic, but the way of teaching can get toxic if it's not taught correctly.
Yeah. I think purity culture, I think we just need to remove the culture.
Yeah, it's the culture. Like the culture part can be toxic, but the purity itself is not toxic. So we both agree on that?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's officially the end of our first episode. Very long. We had a very long recording session, so I wonder how we were going to edit this, but
I wondered.
But how was the first experience for you?
Very good, actually.
Very good, actually.
Refreshing, and also, wow.
I had a very fun time. Actually, like, I could really talk for like hours.
Let's go.
So I am looking forward to
Part 2, next episode.
I'm looking forward to more episodes with more topics and stuff like that. And I also really hope that whoever is watching this really listen to us, really got certain inspiration or learned certain things, or really just got different perspectives. And we hope that we hope that whatever we spoke about today really reached out to your heart in whatever forms, and we hope to see you next time. So we also wish that after listening to us, you can reflect what do you think about purity, what does it mean to you. Did you have certain struggles? If you did, how did you overcome them? We hope that you think about these things. Or how would you teach your children purity, when you have children. So anyways, it's the end.
It's the end. Guys, it's the end.
See you next time.
Yeah, see you next time.
All right, it's a wrap.
Alright, it's a wrap.